Good morning and welcome to the New York City Council vote for the Committee to Combat Hate. At this time, please silence all devices and no one should approach the dais. Chair, you may begin.
Good morning. My name is Yusuf Salam and I serve as the chair of the Committee to Combat Hate. I would like to first start off by thanking everyone for joining us here today for this vote. Last month, this committee held a hearing on a legislative package aimed at combating an alarming rise in hate. That we have seen in recent years. Present at this hearing were the New York Police Department, the New York City Commission on Human Rights, and others. After hearing agency testimony, this committee engaged in an in-depth and mindful discussion, not only with the administration, but with advocates, subject matter experts, and many other members of the public. Several hours of testimony were heard, and I would like to take this moment. Wow, this is. Sorry about this, the font is a little small for me. Several hours of testimony were heard, and I would like to take this moment to say that that's what this process is all about, receiving and engaging with feedback from as many stakeholders with varying viewpoints as possible. Our goal is always to improve the lives of New Yorkers in any way that we can, especially when it comes to their safety, their security, and their feeling of belonging, all of which are matters at the forefront of this hearing and package of bills. It was truly a positively astounding, sorry about that. It was truly and positively astounding to see how many people were, sorry, the font is really messing me up, I really apologize. It was truly and positively astounding to see how many people, especially everyday New Yorkers, felt called to come and share their thoughts, their feelings at such an important legislation. I want to once again thank each and every person who took the time to participate in this legislative process, whether at the hearing or by contacting my office or my colleagues' offices personally. People were especially concerned that the protections were extended equally to all New Yorkers. That has always been a primary consideration for me as well. This feedback and testimony has helped to inform careful, thoughtful amendments to this package, which we are all voting on today, which are as follows. Proposed Intro 1B, sponsored by Speaker Julie Menin, in relation to a plan regarding security perimeters adjacent to places of religious worship. Proposed Intro 22A, sponsored by Council Member Shauna Abreu, in relation to acquiring the Department of Education to distribute materials to students about the risk of social media and online hate. Proposed Intro 175B, sponsored by Councilmember Eric Dinowitz, in relation to a plan regarding security perimeters adjacent to educational facilities. Proposed Intro 297A, sponsored by Councilmember Virginia Maloney, in relation to emergency planning for religious and nonprofit institutions. And lastly, Proposed Intro 388A, sponsored by Councilmember Lincoln Ressler, in relation to establishing a hotline to report discriminatory harassment and unlawful discriminatory practices. We are joined in the chambers by Council Members Sanchez, Shaker, Schulman, and Councilmember Dinowitz, and we are joined online by Council Members Mealy, Wan on Zoom. I'll now like to pass it to Councilmember Dinowitz for his remarks.
Thank you, Chair Salam. I thank you for holding this vote today, and thank you for the hearing you held last month. It was a very intense and emotionally charged hearing, and you took the time as chair to make sure everyone was heard, and I want to personally thank you. And it was emotionally charged because of the fear and the anxiety that so many New Yorkers feel walking into their house of worship or walking into their schools. And that is why we are voting today on Intros 1 and 175. Laws that will require the NYPD to come up with a plan that could include security perimeters to ensure that if a student is walking into school, if a person is going to a house of worship, they can do so without fear of intimidation, interference, or physical obstruction. The bill asks or requires the NYPD to come up with a plan that has public input, a plan that has points of contact at the NYPD, and a plan that clarifies and provides transparency around what we deserve. And I know there are some who don't think this is necessary, but you need look no further than the outside of some of our schools or houses of worship, where physical barriers have been erected, where volunteers go outside in bulletproof vests, because that is the level of fear that exists, and it exists for a reason. It exists because there are violent attacks at some of our schools and houses of worship. It exists because there is harassment and intimidation, physical obstruction at some of our schools and houses of worship. I've spoken to the students that have had to take their classes remotely for fear of entering their own school building. I've spoken to the students that have had to transfer schools for fear of entering their own school building or campus simply because on the way in, they were faced with threats, interference, intimidation, and physical obstruction. That is not what our students deserve, and it's not what our worshipers deserve. And we are asking something simple with this legislation. We are asking for transparency and accountability. That's what these bills do. These bills provide transparency and accountability so that those students can go into school without the fear of intimidation and harassment, that the worshipers can go into their house of worship without fear of intimidation and physical obstruction. And I look forward to the community conversations that are going to happen as a direct result of this legislation, which has a 45-day window for public comment and public input. And I look forward to the conversations and the transparency that is going to be a direct result of this legislation with point people at the NYPD so everyone knows who they're going to contact in the instance of this type of harassment and intimidation. It is what our students deserve. It is what our worshipers deserve. It is what all New Yorkers deserve. And I again want to thank you, Chair Salam, for holding the hearing and for bringing this to a vote.
Thank you. I'll now like to ask the clerk to call the vote.
Thank you. Good morning. William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Combat Hate. All items are coupled. Chair Salam.
I vote aye.
Schulman.
Permission to explain my vote, Chair?
Permission granted.
Thank you. I want to thank Speaker Menon. I want to thank Chair Salam for bringing this critical package of legislation forward. Today's bills take a comprehensive approach to confronting hate from every angle, strengthening hate crime reporting, transparency, creating a bias reporting hotline, educating young people about the dangers of online hate, improving emergency planning, and enhancing security protections at schools and all houses of worship. And I am very happy that these are moving forward, and I want to thank the chair specifically for the great hearing that he had and hearing all voices. And with that, I vote aye on all.
Mealy.
May I explain my vote?
Yes.
I just want to thank Speaker Menon and Chair Salam and all my colleagues with their legislation. And I'm glad this package of legislation is coming through in regards to bringing Christ back into all this crisis we are having. And I will definitely be glad to vote aye on all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Sanchez.
Permission to explain my vote?
Permission granted.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to join in commending you for sitting through the many hours of testimony that we heard during the hearing. I'm going to vote aye on all to advance these bills to the floor and will and allow the full body to weigh in, and we'll vote on my positions later on today. With that, I vote aye.
1.
I vote aye on all except for 175, which I abstain.
Apologies, Councilmember 1 on intro 175. I didn't hear you.
I abstain on 175.
Thank you. Krishnan.
Aye on all except for intro 175, for which I vote no.
Following results, all items have been adopted by the committee with a vote of 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, with proposed introduction 175B being adopted by the committee with a vote of 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, and 1 abstention. Mr. Chair, that is a full committee.
Thank you, and that concludes today's matter.